For today's video, we shall be accompanied by some rather appropriate country fried background music. Karaoke version of the Dead South's Better Off in Hell. Better company in hell? Not something like that. Morning, Glue Troopers. Hope everybody's doing well. I was reading comments this morning. I believe it was Claire Ravenwood had made a comment about when I've been talking about NASCAR, about what is where said Robert Duvall was quoted in the movie Days of Thunder saying there's nothing stock about a stock car, and that led to a few other comments, but that brought up a very interesting point. Actually, it hit on the nexus of, and don't jump ahead. What I'm about to say, we're going to deep dive into. Why I hate NASCAR. Now, you got to understand, when I say I hate NASCAR, I don't mean old NASCAR. Those guys were gods, all right? When you got the car off the lot and just started ripping parts out and welding in a roll cage and working on the engine, I mean, NASCAR stands for what? National Association of Stock Car Racing. And today it should be called National Association of Stock Car Lookalike Racing. But now, don't forget, I'm of a certain age, born in '61, so cars like this were my childhood dream machine. I think my favorite two cars as a kid, when I was younger, well, of course, if you put SS on it, you know, like the Impala SS, I just fell in love with it just right there. Nova SS. Everybody liked the Corvette, but I've actually driven, I'm sure we've all driven Vettes at some point. Given my size and everything, they're not really a comfortable car. I really don't enjoy them that much. I mean, they're great cars, but now, where I live, we never really saw many hot rods like this. But when we did, they were awesome. But so I love cars, factory cars, muscle cars, show cars, the works. One of my favorite channels is Jay Leno's Garage. So what I'm about to rant when I say I hate NASCAR. Stay with me on this, and I think a lot of you guys probably already jumped ahead and have an idea where I'm going. And by the way, I was based for 5 years in Charlotte, North Carolina, with Mesa Airlines, U.S. Airways Express. And so I was around the stock car world a lot, and I got a place in Daytona, so I still am. And the problem I have is that this is not a stock car. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this is an awesome, cool car. I look forward to building it. I built some dragsters and funny cars as a kid, and I think I built, was it Mongoose and Snake? You guys remember those kits? I forget if I built both or one of them. But anyway, the thing I'm driving at is that we all know the scandals with NASCAR. And I have some friends that had worked at NASCAR in the 80s, and they were telling about the nonsense that went on then. And it's a show. I mean, it's a show where people can get killed, but I don't want to make any accusations on there that would get me in trouble. I'm sure we all know what I'm talking about, but, you know, templating that... you know, and stuff like that. That's okay. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. I don't want to say anything on the air because I don't want to. I realize I'm just a little backwater channel, but these days, you know, you sneeze and a guy, you know, the Chinese intelligence community knows it before, you know, the person next to you does. I don't want to give them anything to use against me when I run for president in 2086. I'll be like Futurama, one of those heads in the jar. So, I really think that, I understand why NASCAR evolved and what it evolved into. I just don't think they should call it NASCAR. Just because these aren't, like you said, there's not a stock part. There's nothing stock about a stock car. And there's something about the days when you went to the lot, they probably gave you a car. You took it to your garage, you started yanking parts out of it, you know, and then just, you know, welding the roll cage. Their idea of safety equipment in those days was a crash helmet, goggles, and some gloves. And I know there's a reason the safety equipment got created. But what's the way? I guess there was a certain honesty about it that today I'll bet you pretty much any one of these cars drives within 1, 2, 3 miles per hour of any other. I mean, everything is so, you know, I mean, they started putting restrictor plates on. I think the beginning of the end might have been, was it Petty that had Thunderbird with the Hemi that was just winning all the races? And they basically said, you can't drive that Hemi anymore. I mean, now if there's an advertisement for a Hemi, that's it. Which kind of brings up the question why more cars don't use hemispherical heads, because my understanding is that they're really good design. But, so when I say I hate NASCAR, I don't mean I hate NASCAR. I don't like that NASCAR isn't what it says it is. I wish they would just, I don't know, change the name or do something, or I just feel that it's in days of yore, it was a real race. Half of them were a bunch of old redneck boys that managed to make a little money running moonshine or something, and there was a genuine grassroots feel to it. I mean, I remember watching the races, just old enough to remember watching the races where there's still people like, you know, sitting up on hills in the grass that couldn't afford a ticket, you know, watching from a distance. I mean, today it's just another thing that's become an industry, and it is definitely, you know, lost that good old boy hometown feel. And I was at Daytona a couple of years ago going to work, and thank God I was going southbound and into Orlando on I-4. And when I turned onto I-4, and by the way, not even exaggerating, if I remember correctly, I clocked it. There was a solid line of virtually parked cars going the other way up I-4 for 11 miles, if I remember correctly, because there wasn't enough parking, everything was backed up. And it loosened up and continued on for like 17 miles, but there was 11 miles of basically parking lot people trying to get into the race. And that was so I mean, there's definitely a lot of NASCAR lovers out there, although I understand it's suffering like a lot of companies from recent times. No shock there, but some of the recent scandals and stuff have just been just ridiculous. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to get into real world stuff, not on this channel, but that's why I don't love the current NASCAR. I would rather sit back and watch NASCAR footage from the 60s or 70s. And but I'm sure you guys all know about how I got started and everything, and the folks that started it definitely deserve their kudos, but what's happened to it since then? So, okay, what if I ran NASCAR? What would be my rule? Okay, rule number 1, the car has to come off of a dealership. That's rule number 1. You can take anything out of it you want, but you have to use the factory powertrain. You can use tire, steering, anything else, but you got to use the engine. I'll let you beef up the transmission for racing, and you can beef up the engine, but you got to use the block, you know, the core engine, and then we'd have some right proper NASCAR again. And be honest, with some of these, I mean, I wonder how 800 plus horsepower Hellcat would perform in NASCAR. Strip that thing down. I was sitting by one of those the other day. Oh my God, that thing is loud. So anyway, that was my little NASCAR. And now, first off, don't think for a moment that doesn't mean that I don't like NASCAR models. It's a model I like, and I don't have any NASCAR stuff. So this is going full. I'm going full NASCAR on this one. So it looks like a beautiful kit. And by the way, I have a Lowe's near the house that I shop at regularly. I have to go there. I might have to go. Oh, I don't have anything to do today. Today is model building day. Oh, I have so many things planned. I don't know how much I'll carry through, but you know, no operational plan survives initial contact intact. But so tell me what you think about NASCAR, old or new. Who's your favorite driver? What's your favorite car? And you know, Petty. I guess I'd go with Petty. I know a lot of Earnhardt fans out there, and that's cool, man. Each their own. I think more Richard Petty fellow, probably because I was based up in North Carolina so long, and Petty was. I didn't actually meet him, but I met a few of the other racers, and a lot of the guys I flew with had flown for like Dale Earnhardt Industries and these other race car organizations. I was just watching a race the other day. Yeah, I still watch from time to time. You know, you're at the hotel restaurant, it's on the TV. I had like an 18, 19-year-old kid driving. I mean, that kid must have lightning fast reactions to be driving in NASCAR at that age. But something I saw and the fella I was with, who's a big NASCAR guy, my FO, he's like, is he crying? And we look up there, and apparently he had an accident. He was okay, but he'd been knocked out of the race, and he's like tearing up, and I'm like, I'm thinking of Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own, you know.
No! And you know why? No. Because there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in baseball!
There's no crying in NASCAR. What? Millennial NASCAR. Ow! Oh, well. I'm a crusty old fart and a mean old man. But, there was one other thing, and I'm probably going to edit the video here while my old brain cogitates and thinks about what it was else I wanted to talk about. Boom, ba-doom, 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 doom. Oh, I remember what it was. You guys sent a few ideas for the Glue Trooper logo, and one of you had an idea that involved a flamethrower squirting glue, and I thought that's good. And then I kind of in my head, and I was like, yeah, no, I think you guys can figure out why the flamethrower squirting glue. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. But I'll play with it, see what I can come up with. And at some point, it's all just in good fun. And I was thinking about getting my old motorcycle vest with all the pockets, and like sticking models in the pockets, and then put on my field cap and everything, and put like tools in the field cap and everything, like a fisherman or something, and posing with and having a photo taken, and then just edit in a big giant tube of glue, something like that, so they look kind of like military, except you'd have all these models instead of magazines, and all of these tools instead of bayonets and stuff, so something like that. We'll get to it when we get to it. Models are more important. And look up on that shelf and realize how much work I have to do. Life is sweet. So guys, I guess that's about it for this morning. And again, thanks for all the kits. Somebody just did contact me about they found an old Knight Rider kit, and I got it for like $6 at a thrift store. So I hadn't even thought about looking for models at a thrift store, and you can get pretty much any complete model for $6 these days. That's a good deal. But NASCAR. When men were men, cars came off the lot, and the best kit model you could buy was from Monogram, or Revell, or Aurora, or whatever your favorite was, And you could still buy models of pendulums, and horror scenes, and your whole Aurora Monster scandal. And good times, baby. Good times in model building. Mommy, look, I made a dungeon and torture devices. You guys, if you haven't got one, you got to get a copy of the book by Andy Anchus and Dennis Prince on the whole Aurora Monster scenes. That was, I had heard about it, but they go into some detail. That was great. Poor Jim Keeler was at 71. I talked about this in the video I did about it, but for those that didn't catch it, the girl that was the victim that was later labeled as as Dr. Deadly's daughter to try and soften it. Apparently she attached the waist. It's just the way the molds went. But some attractive young girl who was showing the models off, I think it was the 71 trade show, and she realized that when you put that thing in there, the little pendulum thing, it'll get slice her head. She'll be, oh look, you can cut her in half. Apparently Keeler, when he found out what she was doing, he was like, what the, I'd have paid good money to see that. I actually got to speak to Jim Keeler a couple months ago. He called me, and here's a little irony for you. He's retired from Aurora Exec, And he and Tom Daniel, the famous kit designer, they only live about, for, one with Monogram, the other with War. But they're both retired now, and they both live up in the, about an hour from each other, up in the great American Northwest. Anyway, I just thought that was the great Styrene River. We're all pulled together by a common hobby, and what's kind of sad is there are very few people I can talk to about it, because not that many people are building like when we were kids. Most people say, "Oh yeah, I built one when I was a kid." There are a few guys that build them when they were kids, but I think I told you guys that my wife and I had to have some property inspected, and the inspector came out, and a really good guy, did a real thorough job. Turned out he was the head of the local IPMS chapter, and he was familiar with the channel. And I bumped into one or two people who are familiar with the channel at the hobby shop. I'm like, wow, that blows my mind. But like I said yesterday, you get the models, you kind of got an instant friend. I'm glad we got this thing we can bond around. I can't tell you guys how much all this has meant to me, and I really appreciate all of the positivity, the support, definitely the kits and everything. Sometimes I think I don't say thanks often enough, but the most important, all that's great, but seriously, joking aside, the thing that really matters is that you guys enjoy the channel. Like I say, when it stops being fun, it'll stop being done. And hopefully that day will never come. Woo, I'm a poet. You don't even know it, but his feet sure show it. They're long fellows. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it for this morning's rant and ramble. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to see what I get done. I would like to put out probably a fairly late one this evening, because I want to get as much done as I can. And I really still, even though I've made some more room here, it's already reclutterizing. So I got to get cracking on that. And guys, time for me to quit loafing and start working. Model on. My coffee. My coffee. My coffee.